Hey, I see stairs.
Aha.
Got
Good
it.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast, episode number 155. I'm your host, Adam Bell, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Peter Nikolaidis. How you doing, Peter?
I figured I would just pantomime this whole episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna
dig out the sock puppets, some hand gestures.
Yeah. So it's gonna be like car talk today. You wasted a perfectly good hour listening to no, actually,
wasted yet another perfectly good hour.
But I did. It's funny. I wrote down in my task a list this morning. Podcast, make it interesting. So that's what we're calling the podcast today. Make it interesting. So
how do we do that?
I don't know, but we got a uphill from here. Everything's got to get better.
Okay, well, let's start. I think today we will talk a little bit about fitness, as we are wont to do.
Mm-hmm.
We will talk a little bit about the current state of COVID-19.
Yeah.
We will talk about a technology gripe, one little minor one, and whatever else happens to interweave itself into the topics as we go along.
There we go.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right. Why don't you kick us off with the vaccine mandate for co's over 100 people?
Oh, wow. We're going right there right now, huh?
Yeah, let's just like dive right in.
Yeah.
Boom.
All right. So the COVID mandate, well, and it's not official, just to be clear. It's not a law yet. It's been proposed. I don't see any reason why it will not, but the powers that be are saying that companies, federal and private, over 100 employees will be mandated to have COVID-19 vaccines.
Now, is this Tennessee or is this United States?
The United States of America.
Okay, I've not heard about this. I've been a little bit behind on my news, and I will tell you why when we get to our last topic on the current agenda. Or I can just bump it up a little bit.
Yeah. So there, of course, there's a lot of opposition to this, since half the country is crazy right now, and just
that's
partisan. It's partisan politics, which is BS.
Right. So when you said I don't see why it wouldn't happen, I was just like, I do. The word is Republicans.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a news article this week that was talking about how throughout history there have been vaccine mandates by the government. Pre-government, George Washington, we helped win our independence by forcing his troops to get vaccinated so that they could survive the winter and togetherness.
Yep.
So this is not the thing. The thing is, it shouldn't have to be mandated. We should be intelligent people, and I wrote this down. This wasn't something news. I said survival of the fittest is about having the best odds, which is why I personally have had my vaccine. I exercise, I eat well, I don't drink too much, I don't do drugs, I do all these things to give me the best opportunity to have a long and happy life. Well, a disease comes along. What could increase my odds of continuing to have a long and happy life? Well, the odds are these side effects, and I could die from a vaccine, but the numbers are really low. But even better in the odds are, if I do get sick, it will be minimized. I could still possibly die, but it's going to be minimized, and it's going to give
the odds really low.
Yeah, but this is going to give me the best opportunity statistically for success. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, and that's what I don't understand as an intelligent person. Any one of those anti-vaxxers, they are doing it. They're not doing it for intellectual reasons. So therefore, they think that they're intelligent. If they think they're intelligent, do the logic.
Yeah, no. That's the thing is that strikes me as the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the dumber someone is, the smarter they think they are. It's pretty intense. So yeah.
So,
No, you're doing it for the wrong reasons there, folks.
yeah. So it's going to be mandated. There are going to be people that push back. I've gotten letters from the Nashville Commerce, or the not the Chamber of Commerce, wanting to know our opinions and how it's going to affect. Of course, it doesn't affect my company. I don't have 100 people or more. I can't make them do it for litigious reasons. And I can't like shame people into it because they're being dumb. I can talk to them one-on-one and explain why I recommend that they do this. But if they end up not doing it, there's nothing I can do about it other than, pray for them and tell them that I think you're making the wrong decision.
So you know that my main engagement is with a hospital, right?
Yeah.
We can't even get people to take the vaccine, and we are seeing people now resign in protest of the mandate that all employees, regardless of remote or on-site employment status, need to be vaccinated. And we're seeing all of the same, pardon me, dear listener, you can suffer through this. Adam, you might want to cover your ears. Bullshit excuses to not get vaccinated. And I understand a lot of these people think that they think they're doing the right thing, and they think their reasons are legitimate, and they are not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not based in fact, and that's the problem. They're based in essentially what amounts to they having been brainwashed. And you can tell that this is, you're on the right side of an argument when, when you mention something like that, they say, well, no, you're the one who's been brainwashed. Like, okay. And, I've done some research, I looked at peer-reviewed studies. I've looked at a lot of stuff that came out of like, oh, well, they're just on the take, they are under the influence of the Illuminati. I'm like, okay, this is really cool that you can point to all sorts of unseen, invisible hands behind the scenes that no one can actually see, right? No one's actually, have you ever, I don't know, Adam, maybe I'm wrong. Have you ever actually met an Illuminati?
Not that I'm aware.
I mean, right? How would you know, right? They're always hiding. So
I couldn't tell you if I were one.
Yeah, maybe you are.
Maybe I am.
Maybe you are a Illuminati. So when I hear stuff like that, I mean, it makes me want to strangle people.
The other thing is, okay, let's say that this were a political debate, and what you could lose was minor. I mean, let's say that we were betting $20. I mean, mm-hmm. If I'm right, I win $20. If I lose, the stakes are really low. I lost $20. You won $20. We're talking about people's lives.
Yeah.
The stakes are really high.
Yes.
Even if it turns out you are right and survived, you will be alive to tell me you're right. But if you're wrong, you'll die in a very fast, unpleasant way.
Yep. And is it worth that? Is it really worth that?
It's not.
Why take the chance? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's definitely not worth. Like I said, pick another fight. I mean, pick something that's a non-fatal fight. I mean, it's like saying, if I stab you, you stab me here, I'll live, I promise. Oh, well, you didn't.
Oh, oops.
You're right.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. I mean, I do, to it, actually, that's not true. I do kind of get it. Because of the research that I have done, in the psychology of what goes on to, to start to make these beliefs set in. And, it preys upon like just known behaviors that we are hardwired to do. And when we see something interesting, we start to hear it. And when you hear the same thing over and over again, you become indoctrinated to it. So you start to believe what you hear.
Yeah.
And even, like these, some really scary stuff was like, even people who were pro-vaccine, like pro-vaccine parents who say, no, I need to get my kids vaccinated, I'm all for that, just after watching like one YouTube video would start, that was like on conspiracy theories and anti-vax stuff, would like, well, I have some questions, and it's just like, all you have to do is like saying, it's like, gee, you don't look so good today, are you feeling sick? And you're like, well, I wasn't, but now that, yeah, exactly. Now that you mention it, I am feeling a little tired today. I'm like, oh, maybe you have COVID, So stuff like that's a little, little scary. Well, when I say a little scary, I mean a lot scary. So,
well, and I'm almost at the point now, it's like, okay, well, let's just everybody demask then, and let's just go on to coughing on each other. I might get sick, but it's going to be way less for me than it is for you. And the people who refuse to get vaccinated, you'll just die off, and then this will be done. I mean, somebody is that I know is currently in the hospital recovering from full-blown COVID, where, on the ventilator and everything. And there are 4.5 floors dedicated and full of people who are recovering from COVID right now. Right. And it's not a big hospital, but I guess it's not a Vanderbilt, but it's a, localer version of HCA.
Sure. But what percentage of that hospital is full is the question.
Right. 4.5 floors is an awful lot of that hospital.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. More than half, probably.
I don't know the answer to that. I would be speculating, but looking at the building, it's like an 8-story building. So yeah, sounds like half.
It sounds like half, right? So, I mean, we could look into it, and of course that not the entire floor, not every floor of that hospital is going to be beds.
Yeah.
Right. So, we can speculate. Yes, we are speculating. And even though when we say, okay, we admit it, we're speculating, that still throws a little bit of dubiousness into our claims, right? That's just the way it works. That's the way it works. So, really, we should look this up. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. Look up the name of the hospital and find out, it's somewhere it should say number of beds in there. We do a little bit of research. But where I'm going with that, though, is that lots of hospitals are at capacity now because they are being full of people who have COVID. And it's like, okay, oh yeah, but the symptoms aren't that bad. So let me get this straight. You could get the shot and maybe not get sick in the first place, but you'd rather not get the shot and take the gamble that maybe you'll be hospitalized because things aren't so bad. That's like, why just, but the problem is, no matter how much we talk about it, we're trying to reason with people who can't be reasoned with in this manner, right? And if you're interested in this, highly recommend the works of Dr. Stephen Hassan, who has done a lot of research in cults and brainwashing and stuff, which contributes directly to this phenomenon that we're describing. So highly recommended. So anyway, that was fun. So why was I behind and not hearing about the initiatives to require companies to require vaccinations by law? Because I was not getting my email because Gmail has really been sucking lately. Like their spam filter, and this is the personal Gmail, not a G Suite account, right? My spam filter on average now, the last several days I've looked, Anywhere from 50 to 75% of the emails in my spam folder are legit. And they are coming from senders, which I have been getting for a long time, like Amazon.com. I did not just start buying from Amazon last week, Adam. I have been buying from Amazon for decades now.
Not new. Okay.
Yeah. And, so like my All Sides news notifications are not coming to me. All kinds of different things, just not getting them. And I'm like, I don't understand. Where did they go?
I know why.
Why?
The Illuminati spam filter is making sure that you do not know about vaccines.
They don't want you to know. That's what it is. I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Yep. They don't want me to know. So I touched on this though. I subscribe to allsides.com, which gives a balanced view of all kinds of different news, topics. And they will say, like, here's the view from the left, here's the view from the center, here's the view from the right. And I think every quarter they go through a bias chart, and they'll rate things like New York Times leans to the left, CNN slightly left, New York Times editorial very left, Wall Street Journal a little bit right, Fox News pretty right, Breitbart extremely right. So and it's pretty good because they will distinguish between things like the editorials and the opinion pieces versus just the actual publications and stuff. So like the Wall Street Journal has some somewhat right-leaning stuff, but it's fairly center, but their opinion pieces tend to be right-leaning. Okay. Right. Whereas like I think I forget, I want to say USA Today is fairly center in the middle. And what they do is they'll give you a nice breakdown, like here's a popular news item, United States pulls out of Afghanistan, and it's like from the right, from the center, from the left. And they'll give you these three things. And it's funny, you see like Biden, screws up big time coming from the right versus, like our president is doing the right thing, on the left kind of thing. So it's interesting just to see how, views and how news can be portrayed from multiple sides, left and right.
Yeah. Well, in the defense, it's kind of like, a divorce attorney will say, well, there's his story, her story, then the truth. In those, all those major things, I'm talking about pulling out of Afghanistan. If you are looking at that story as a Taliban member, it looks a whole lot different than it does as a U.S. soldier who spent time in Afghanistan, or the widow of a soldier who spent their time in Afghanistan, or a politician who sent them to Afghanistan. They're all different perspectives.
Exactly. That's exactly it. People have different perspectives, and it's interesting. It's good to take these into account when you're, examining just about anything, really.
Yeah.
So I've gone through this before too with Gmail. This happened, I don't know if it was earlier this year or late last year, where it was just like trigger happy. Like everything was going straight into junk mail. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So I have a semi-business Nifty, since it kind of came around here, is, talking about spam. You're talking about personal. This is talking about business anti-spam. I have been using a product called Avanan, which is managed by my SOC, Blockworks. And it does filtering on top of Google, and it will do filtering on top of Microsoft. So Microsoft and Google both have their own filtering systems, and they're okay. They're adequate. But this catches all the other stuff. So what it does, it sits alongside their engine, and then additionally makes more rules and changes to it. because we get a report every month, or actually weekly, of where Microsoft found spam and then the spam that they found on top of what Microsoft did. Because Microsoft has a different policy.
Yep.
They let the spam go to your inbox, and when they find it, they pull it out of your inbox.
It doesn't get any more Microsoft than that. It's like, oh yeah, we'll deliver it all, and then we will add some overhead and go around and retroactively yank it after your user has had a good old chance of clicking on that malicious link first. Cool.
Yeah. So that's a pretty cool. I'm like, that's not our Nifty, but I thought, it says it brought up, that's a pretty cool business spam filtering system.
It's kind of nifty.
Yeah, kind of nifty.
That's a kind of nifty. I like that. So we'll introduce that. So I'm feeling a little bit of COVID hypocrisy.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, as you know, I took a trip to Tennessee this past weekend to sort of, my first trip out of town since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in airports, I was in a hotel, I was most importantly on 2 airplanes, which I don't know if you know this, not the greatest when it comes to circulating air.
That's not
around.
What they tell you. They tell you it's completely recycled within like 9.2 seconds.
Recycled, right? But that means it's the same air.
It's supposed to be scrubbed. There are ladies with brushes in the air, and they are scrubbing the air. And
but we know that scrubbing things does not prevent the spread of COVID. Here's the problem. See, here's where. So anyway, what I was saying is I was in airplanes, but at the same time, I am resisting the temptation to go to a movie theater. And I'm like, now I feel like a hypocrite, because I'm like, well, I won't go to a movie theater, but sure, I'll hop on an airplane. Now, I like to think that people would be better and there'd be a little more stringent, enforcement of mask policies. But when they're serving refreshments and snacks on the planes, everyone's taking their masks off.
That's kind of like, what's the point?
So, right. I mean, when I made a point, like whenever anyone else was eating or drinking, my mask was staying on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was off the regular cycle, so I was not doing it at the exact same times, but still they could be breathing stuff into the air, right? Also, they said that I believe Logan was going to be performing like temperature scans beforehand, make sure you don't have a fever and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. They just asked you, are you sick? Do you have a fever? Okay, go.
Yeah.
So there was no additional checking, and I'm like, so I was toying with the idea last week of renting a theater, doing a private theater rental with 19 of my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
And all who would have to attest to me, show me your vaccination card, I've been vaxxed, right? And then we would all it'd be like 20 of us having the entire movie theater, and then we can sit as far apart from each other as we want to, and feel relatively safe about that. Well, I didn't get more than like 3 people said that they would go in on it with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that we're basically spending like $100 a piece for the tickets. And as much as I want to see the latest Marvel thing in movies in the theaters, I don't think I'm ready to spend $100 on it.
Yeah. Well, I told you we saw Jungle Cruise in the theater. We went the opening weekend, and we were not next to anybody. I mean, there weren't people in front of us. I mean, everybody spread out. The theater was spread out, and
But do you think that's because what was the theater enforcing that, or was it just not that many people?
There just weren't that many people going to the theater.
Right. Well, that makes me wonder. Let me divert for a moment. Open up my good old AMC Theaters app and look at reserved seating.
Yeah.
Because I do have a weekend coming up.
Because we did.
Let's see.
And I don't know, I mean, I don't know if they were designating spaces in between the seats, because we got to pick our seats, and
Right.
we reserved them and sat there, and the seats are big. We had lots of space around us. You know, I might have felt differently if it was packed to the gills,
Yep.
but it wasn't. I mean, it was just
Yeah. So I'm looking at a theater for right now for tomorrow night. Like the entire first 3, 4, 5, the entire first 6 rows are open right now. In row 6, we have like 2 outer seating seats, like outside. Those are all booked. So the first ones to go apparently were people taking the outer edges where there's just 2 chairs and then a row separating them from the rest of everybody else. I don't know if but
yeah.
yeah, you can see on the outside, you know,
yeah.
like here, those are the ones that were taken. And then oddly enough, in the dead center, my favorite is row 3 right here. That's my favorite of these things. So I don't know. That's tomorrow night at 8:15. I mean, if this looks like that tomorrow night at 8:15, I'd probably go.
Yeah. Well, we decided, I mean, we decided in 2020, before we had the vaccine, that we're going to mask up. We're going to do everything we possibly can to not get it, but we weren't going to stop living our lives. I mean, we were going to go ahead and just do everything, you know. So, I mean, that's kind of where we are now, even with the vaccine. It's like, well, I don't really want to get sick. So I am going to mask up, but we're not going to stop doing what we've got to do now.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing is, like, you know, what you have to do and what you want to do, you know, that's the difference. So
yeah, but there's so this weekend we're going to the UT football game. And
it is outside.
It's outside. And I told Elizabeth, I was like, well, are we going to wear masks? I mean, she's like, well, looking on TV, nobody's wearing their masks. I'm like, I don't know. I might wear my mask while in the stadium, because that's a lot of people. I mean, I don't even like people coughing on me and everything, just regular.
Well, I mean, when I went to a couple of Red Sox games the last couple of months, I wore my mask. You know, people looked at me funny sometimes. They're like, why are you wearing your mask? I'm like, do you really have to ask?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, seriously? Yeah. So maybe they were trying to, I mean, they may have been trying to ask, like, you know, aren't you vaccinated? Maybe that's what they were trying to say, but you know, I don't know. So anyway, like I said, feeling like a little bit of a hypocrite, but I don't know. That's Ah, brother. All right. So yeah, survival of the fittest. Speaking of fittest, running updates.
Okay.
I've been doing let's see. So when I was the day I was on the plane, let me just double check here. I'm most days now, I would say not necessarily my mean, but my median average. I'm doing a 10K every day now.
Nice.
Yes. So the day that I flew out of town, I ran a 5K in the morning. And then because I had checked in the day before on my app on my phone, I found myself in the wrong wing of the terminal, in the wrong concourse. So I got an indoor 0.32 mile run to catch my flight. So so that was fun. And then the day Monday, when I was, you know, just in town banging around, I walked a lot, but I did not run. But as soon as I got home, I, you know, got home, landed, came home, had a little bit of a headache, ate just a little bit of like, I, you know, drank a little bit of like electrolytes and some banana just to give a little bit of sugar and stuff. Cause I don't know about you, like every time I fly, I get like a jet laggy type headache kind of thing, you know, like it feels like a low grade fever and stuff. So I went out and I ran it off. And it worked. You know, by the time I got home, I felt like flushed from a run, but it had helped clear the gunk and the symptoms. So I felt a lot better after that. But yeah, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today I've done 10Ks every day since. And Sunday was the day I flew. And Saturday before that, my running buddy and I did 17 miles, which is another personal record.
Nice.
What's hard about that is I'm now trying to control my heart rate. So I'm doing
You just tell your heart, slow down.
It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, like I'm trying to to do aerobic training, so staying out of the sugar burn lactic threshold area and in the aerobic fat burn area, and that has slowed me down a lot.
Yeah.
Like I need to go a lot slower than I normally do, and that's kind of a bummer, because I was like, I wasn't getting faster all the time, but man, those runs when I go fast, like, oh, that felt great. That was really cool. I want to do that again. And now it's more like, yeah, it didn't, like that's not accomplishing it. So what I'm trying to do is, by staying in the heart rate conditioning zone, the aerobic zone, and for me, on paper, that's supposed to be 131 beats per minute. You generally start to push your performance. So if you stay in that zone, you should just naturally be able to get better at it.
Okay.
But it's hard when, like I'm been working on my breath. I've been working on my step count. I'm working on keeping my foot from supinating, trying to keep my right foot pronating to work on my footfalls properly, and all these things. And now I also have to keep my heart rate down. So I'm looking at my watch more, and it's a little disappointing, but it's like to do the work. It's like saying, you want to go to the gym, and I know I can bench press 250, I can just let me do it. Just like, I understand. But really, if you want to get good, you have to do 100 pounds and don't go above that for months. Have fun. But when I did 250, I felt amazing, and my chest was all puffed up, and my biceps were amazing. It was great, and it was big and stuff. Like, yeah, I understand. That's not going to get you where you want to be. Like,
well, I guess, of course, I'm not a runner, and I don't even pretend to be one on TV. But I would think, so let's say that your heart rate was 130, was your ideal, not to go over that. It seemed like to get better, you'd want to be at like 132, 133 to help get that level up higher. Not do like 140, because 140 be way over. Or like, even if it was just for periods, like, okay, for this period of my run, I should be at 133, and then I'll back down into the 130. I don't know, just like I said, that's just logic to me of, you got to push a little bit past to get your threshold up over. But I'm not a runner, so I don't know. I can't advise on running.
Yeah. And it's hard. What was disappointing to me was, like, yesterday, the last couple of days I've been doing it, and it's felt really easy. Today there were more moderate hills in my run, and it was hotter and really sunny, so I had to slow down even more so.
Yeah.
And I kept looking down, thinking I didn't feel like I was working that hard, but look down and still like, oh man, I gotta slow down again, because my beats were like 140 beats per minute, and I was like,
yeah.
So it's just, it's a mindset though. It's like, okay, so now doing the work, like this is now I'm sort of embraced what they say, like, yeah, if you want to get faster, you have to practice slow. Like, really, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's
really, it's a thing. That's the thing.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing now. Slowing down.
Yeah. Like I would trust them more than me.
I suppose I should make a new fitness program. I call it Yin Running.
Yin Running. Well, speaking of yin, I've needed some yin in my life this week, even more so than normal.
Okay. How so?
So I sent you pictures of my concrete.
Yes.
And so, I've always had, I've had some bad lifting habits that I developed at an early age. And I was using too much back. So that just means my lower back muscles get strained if I don't pay attention to how I lift. So whenever I do a lot of concrete work or any sort of heavy lifting, I wear a belt because just to keep my back straight and keep everything healthy. Well, what it did is it kept my back straight, but it made me move my hips in different ways for an extended period of time, which then turned around and strained my back anyway. So I should have just not worn the belt, and I should have just been conscious of my back the whole time in my lifting, because I would have had my hips moving as well as my back moving, because my hips weren't moving. So then my workouts, I was like, I can't even work out. And my coach was like, yeah, don't do. I was like, I'm gonna get on the bike, and because I felt pretty good on the bike, because I sit there and my arms are moving, and my legs are moving. He's like, dude, you need to do your stretches that you do. And so I spent the next 30 minutes just doing my Yin Yoga hip expanding exercises, and I walked out of there like a new man.
Isn't it amazing what just a little bit of care and maintenance can accomplish for the body?
Yeah.
Oh, before I forget too, as part of my running stuff too, I'm going back onto pretty much effectively like the slow carb diet.
Okay.
I still have some carby things that I bought within the last couple of weeks that I'm sort of like eating out of the cabinet, if they won't last until Saturday. But ratcheting things down, and pretty much my intention is after a long run, which would be like tomorrow for me, in the week, then that'll be cheat day.
Yeah.
So donuts, pasta, French fries, have at it, anything there. Because I figure at this point, like I've got a little bit of leeway, if you're looking at the weight loss, but now I'm looking at performance. And so I'm really trying to cut down on the sugars and, instead cranking up the healthy carbs, but more importantly, the fats. So I'm eating a ton of fat. So like lunch, I made myself, I have a low carb wrap that I had to eat because they were, just going to pass date. But I made myself, like half a cup of egg whites, a hot Italian sausage, 3 ounces of London broil, some pasta sauce, ate all that. And then just before we started recording, ate 10 almonds and a tablespoon of crunchy peanut butter. And, I look at that, like normally if I was to eat all that much, my face would be breaking out like a teenager. But I have to assume that I'm actually burning it off, so it doesn't have a chance to get into my skin. So, I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. So I'm paying attention to diet too, to see. So seems to be working.
It's funny that you mentioned that. So we started a 75-day challenge at CrossFit. We're doing that hard 75. Well, I'm doing obviously a modified version because I can't just go from where I am today to where they want. It's like the New Year's, you can't just say I want, I'm a 229 pound man today. I'm like, well, I want to be 200 pounds by the end of January. Well, that's a dumb plan.
That's a dumb plan. I'm not saying it's impossible. You could do it, but it's gonna hurt.
Yeah. And you're going to pick it all right back up. I mean, it's not going to be an overall health thing. So what I did is I set my scale of like, I want to improve over these 75 days. I can't be day one where I want to end up. So what I need to do is I need to steadily scale into the full by the end of the 75 days. I have then been doing this. So it's based on hydration, sleep, stress management, physical activity, nutrition quality, and nutrition quantity. So the hydration, they're aiming for the really extreme people are aiming for 100% hydration. How many ounces of water per how many pounds of weight that you have. So for me, I drink a lot of water, but if I were to try to drink 225 ounces of water, I would do nothing but pee all day long. so So, but
225 ounces.
so what I had to figure out was okay, let's get a reality check of how much water am I actually drinking now?
Is that like 8 liters?
Yeah, I don't know the math on that, but yeah, it's a lot. So I figured out, I can, on just a regular day, not even thinking about it, I drink 2 liters of water before I'm done at the gym. And then I'll drink another 2 liters of water throughout the day, just as part of my regular routine. Because I've gotten that guilt, the workout guilt of like, oh, okay, I had 2 cups of coffee. I need 4 cups of water at least to counteract that that coffee that I've had. So I've kind of got that built in. So I'm aiming right now this week to make sure that I always have 120 ounces of water, moving up to the 75%. Sleep, their target sleep is 7 to 8 hours. I can't do it. I mean, I just can't sleep that long. So my average right now is 5 hours and 40 minutes. So I'm going to aim to get that to 7. That will be hard for me. If I can get my target 6.5.
It's the thing too, is I these days firmly believe not everybody needs 8 hours of sleep. I think maybe most people do, maybe some people do, but I'm convinced that not everybody does.
Yeah.
Some days I feel like I need more. Some days I wake up after 6 hours and I feel great. So it really depends. What I notice though is I still wrestle with late onset insomnia. I'll sleep for like 3 or 4 hours and then just be wide awake. And I've heard some people say like, well, you shouldn't try to do anything because then you're training your body like, well, I'm supposed to be up at this time. I think my body's already been pretty well trained. It thinks it's supposed to be up at this time. So maybe now I'm like, why should I fight it? Maybe that's when I should be sitting up and meditating or listening to an audiobook or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny. We've talked about stimulants before. So 5-hour energy. What I was doing that concrete and I knew I was going to be working all day. So I can't drink that little shot of 5-hour energy. It affects me for 48 hours.
Yes, I have felt that before. I had one. Well, it's been years since I had one of those, but I remember driving down once to see my girlfriend when before I moved down here to Boston. I was coming down to see her, and I had like half of one in the afternoon. As I was driving by. I stayed up and stared at the ceiling all night.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay. Remember, this stuff is not for beginners.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I have zero insomnia. I can sleep, but what happens is I don't sleep well. My eyes are closed, my head's off, but my body rolls and turns, and I'll wake up and my Fitbit says I slept, but I'm exhausted. So just like you, I had a half of one, because I've figured out if I'm going to do a lot of physical labor, I'll do that. I'll do a half of one, but I know that I've got 48 hours of I'm very attentive, I'm very energized, I won't get good sleep, and then I will crash on day 3. And that's exactly what happened. I worked on those steps and felt good, lots of energy, lots of focus. And then on day 3, I crashed and just, couldn't get enough sleep. It's not a good cycle.
Chemicals have effects on the body, Adam.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway from this,
So I'm avoiding that as much as possible, other than extreme things. All right, then the next thing was stress management, 30 minutes per day, per week. I do that. That's not a.
I do that.
Yeah.
What's your method?
Yeah. Well, I read. So I read a nonfiction and do a daily devotional. I don't meditate like you do, but I'm journaling and reading my Bible and listening to a devotional and reading a nonfiction.
I thought you were gonna say, I read like the headlines, which are really calming and soothing and relaxing. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
no, not that. Okay, good.
No, not that. Then the physical activity, their suggestion is 5-day workouts plus two, plus 30 minutes of activity. So we walk every night after dinner.
Yep,
So I
yep.
do my 5 days of workout, and every night of the week, I mean, every night of every day, we walk after dinner unless
Hmm.
weather dictates otherwise.
Right.
So, and then the nutrition, man, they were extreme on the nutrition. That's a bit I said that would be the hardest adjustment for me, is
Hmm.
getting my protein levels to where it needs to be. That's not so hard for me because I like to eat protein. So I
Hmm.
mean, whether it's a supplement or whether it's chicken or turkey or whatever, I don't mind eating protein. That's not a hard thing for me to increase. Sometimes I've got to make sure that I get enough, because it seems like it's hard to get a full protein diet that has actual like really good protein. Like, oh, I ate a hot dog. Oh, good. You got 2 grams of protein. What?
You got to look at the ingredients list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So paying attention to that. One of them is eliminating sugar completely, including alcohol. And I said, well, I'm going to do my best to reduce my sugar intake, but I like peanut butter. Peanut butter has sugar in it.
Well, so natural, just plain old peanuts.
Mhm,
Like there is some sugar in peanuts. A peanut has some sugar in it.
mhm.
But like if you look at the difference between like conventional peanut butter off the shelf, that may have like 3, 4, maybe even 5 grams of sugar. But if
Yeah,
it's just nuts, a similar serving will probably have more like 2 grams of sugar.
yeah. So
But it does have some sugar.
yeah. So I'm going to avoid the, donuts and the cupcakes and the things that you're like, obviously this has sugar in it. Some of the things that have complex sugars in it, fruit, I'll eat the fructose, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna eat fruit. But they also talk about eliminating dairy. I said, you know what? I'm not going to eliminate dairy. I don't overdo dairy. Um, I want a bowl of ice cream on Saturday, and I'm not. I mean, I'm not going to eat it all the rest of the week, but I'm going to have a Saturday bowl of ice cream.
See, that's where the slow carb diet is great, because one cheat day per week is built in.
Mm-hmm.
So, eat a gallon of ice cream on your cheat day if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Yeah. So, and I said, I have coffee. I have coffee, and I put creamer in my coffee. I'm going to enjoy my 1 ounce of whatever, creamer that I put in my coffee. Yeah.
So I use heavy cream in mine.
Yeah.
And yeah, because there's no sugar and it's all fat,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So I recommend that if you're looking, I don't know if you said creamer or like coffee mate kind of stuff or what.
Oh yeah. I use hazelnut coffee mate.
Okay. And that's got sugar in it too
Yeah,
there,
it's
but
got sugar and
yeah.
dairy. But I'm
I
not drinking it from the jug. I mean,
How much are you putting in?
a dollop.
Because I used to watch my dad, like when he would put milk in his coffee and stuff, it would be like a quarter cup. I'm not exaggerating.
Oh yeah, no, it's not that
And
bad.
of course, if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, I mean, most of around here, it's mostly milk,
Yeah.
with some coffee on the side.
Mhm.
So, but it's like, okay, whatever. But I am down to, depending on the day, when I make myself an AeroPress cup of coffee, it's usually either 1 or 2 teaspoons, so 5 to 10 milliliters of heavy cream,
Mhm.
and that's about 36 calories. But again, it's mostly fat and there's no sugar in that,
Mhm.
so that's why I'm like, yeah, whatever, get away with that. But other than that, when you talk about dairy, that's when I generally, I'm pretty good at avoiding that.
Mhm.
I am allowing myself some hard cheeses as
Mhm.
part of my current diet. It's technically not slow carb. But again, there's a lot of fat in there, and not a lot in the way of sugar. So most of the milky part has gotten taken off into other milk products, and you're left back with like the salt and the fat and stuff, which is not your enemy.
Yeah. So my creamer, I end up putting about a tablespoon, not a teaspoon, a tablespoon of hazelnut creamer, and then a tablespoon of half and half, because I can't, it's way too sweet if I put 2 tablespoons of creamer in there.
Have you thought of just trying half a tablespoon of creamer and see what happens?
Oh, I could try it.
I experimented with mine. Well, so one day, and this was like 15 years ago, I forget, it's on my blog. I just stopped adding sugar to things. So like, I'm not going to put anything in my coffee or in my tea, essentially. And, like if I was eating cereal, I'm not going to put any sugar on it. Or if I'm eating strawberries, I'm not going to put sugar on them. And I remember telling a friend of mine who is so freaking ADHD, it's not funny. I was telling him about the diet, and like, you don't eat any fruits, you don't eat anything white, right? Other than like some cream or cauliflower. There's no starches, there's no grains. He's like, yeah, but if you're not eating sugar, what do you put on your blueberries? It's like, what part of no fruit did you not understand? And so that's been a long time where I generally, again, some days, like on a Saturday, I may make an exception. And, if I get back from a trip to Vermont, and I've just bought some maple syrup, maybe I'll have a little bit in my coffee for a couple of days, so that's a little bit of a cheat thing. It's blatantly cheating. But I don't generally put sugar in things. Maybe if I'm cooking and a recipe calls for it, right? But I don't like grab a plate of or bowl of or cup of something and then add sugar to it.
And I almost never do that. I mean, I like my Raisin Bran. I like to eat Raisin Bran, but it's already got sugar on the raisins.
Right, but you can get it without. You can, you can make your own. You can get unsweetened cereal and unsweetened raisins, because I got news for you. The sugar, the raisins have sugar in them also. You don't need to put even more sugar on them, So there's a lot that, there's a lot of sugar in everything, by default now. So you have to actually work to get it out of things. So, but what I did is I just started to taper back, and I went back from like a full, like an ounce of cream or half and half in my coffee, and I just started tapering back to like a tablespoon, and then I moved over to heavy cream, and then more like a couple of teaspoons. And generally I can, if I make myself a good cup of coffee, 1 teaspoon of cream, it's just great. So it's a process though. You have to work on it, and the trick is you have to actually measure it out, because it's real easy to just like, oh yeah, it's just a teaspoon. How come it's white? So, why does that coffee off white or beige? Maybe that's beige.
Well, I mean, that's helped discourage me from eating different things that I would eat. Like, well, if I've got to figure it out and add this to my log, I'd forget it. I just won't eat it. But I've been using Lose It to keep track of my macronutrients, how much. And of course, you can't 100% take that to be truth. Sometimes you got to look up some things on your own. What I really like is when I can scan a barcode.
I like that too, but I have found often when people will, sometimes barcodes overlap, and they may not be they're not 100% unique. So there's barcode collisions. Sometimes people, the first person who scanned a barcode entered the wrong information.
Yep.
So I've been using MyFitnessPal for that instead of Lose It. And I have logged into MyFitnessPal now for 2,745 days.
All right.
In a streak. Yeah. Wow. Wow. And I did look at Lose It. I've looked at a few others. I'm always looking for like, what's better than MyFitnessPal? And, like I want something where the watch app is a little better. Every now and then there's just like, I just wish I had this feature or that feature and stuff. But I'm like, I don't want to break that streak.
Yeah.
So if I was to switch to something else, I would have to do it in a little, like I'd have to overlap at a time, sort of keep 2 sets of books until I was sure I wanted to do that. So anyway.
The one part though that they were, let's see, what was it? It was the uncompromising. I was like, oh, well, I just can't even do that. It was, oh, well, I guess that was it. But it seemed like there was something else. I was like, yeah, that won't work. Oh, I know.
There are a lot.
What was it? It was 75. What was it? Oh, eating nothing that comes packaged. Nothing.
Yeah.
That was the other one. And I was like,
yep.
Sorry, that one's not going to work for me because it's too inconvenient. I'm not going to make this, because like in the morning, I eat a granola bar before I go to the gym. I'm not going to make a granola bar.
No, but what you could do is you could make a bowl of oatmeal out of some fresh oats and some nuts and some raisins.
Yeah.
It's work. It's work, right? So somehow for hundreds of thousands of years, people did it though. Sort of like running without running shoes.
Yeah.
Somehow they did that. So. All right. Have we covered everything?
Well, we had one item left, and I guess we've got just a few minutes, and that'll be fine on that one. We'll run a little long today than our normal podcast. It was a news article added to my newsletter this month, How to Succeed in Life 8 Hours per Week, which really falls under lots of things that we've talked about before. So it's an article written by Darren Hardy, and he talks about every morning, and this was part of my regular meditation. He's saying, spend an hour a day, every day, and twice on Sunday is 30 minutes, read a nonfiction book, something that's going to help you in your life, your business, whatever. Read a nonfiction book and educate yourself or get inspired or do something. And then the second half hour is plan your day. Figure out the tasks that you need to do that day and plan it out. And it's really simple. And I've been doing it now for 2 weeks, and it has made my my days a lot less stressful. Now there's still things that come in that aren't part of my day, and I have to fit them in. But going ahead and looking at my calendar and planning out my day, just 30 minutes of, and it's all of my life, not just my work day, but like I've got to do this after work. I'm planning on doing that, putting it in my task list, being flexible to move things around if I have to, but these are the things I have to get checked off today and I have to do. And that's worked out a lot better for me. I mean,
plan.
Yeah. Have a plan.
Amazing. Cool.
So that was my, and then of course I had the Nifty is the Cisco's Open DNS home. You've used that before, haven't you?
Yeah, just point your DNS to 208.67.220.220 and go.
Yeah. Well, it is that simple, and it isn't exactly that simple if you want to have more control. So you can go out, and it's free for home users, and it's we use it in our business at the paid for version. But as a home user, you can go to your router and you enter the DNS like Peter said, and you also create an account with Cisco. And then you can have it report your IP address, or you can install a client on your computer that will report your IP address there, and then you can
Yep.
set up rules for your family. So, you know, you don't just, sometimes the DNS doesn't work. So I live in a house with 3 other women. Well, I can't block bathing suits and things like that. Well, if I had sons, you know, I might want to block the bathing suits. But since I have daughters, you know, they're looking at the bathing suits and they want, you know, things like that. So
Yeah.
by creating that account, I can open some things up, or I can tighten some things down. I can add
Yep.
specific websites I don't want people to go through, or, you
Yep.
know, no YouTube for you.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. It's essentially, it's giving you a free home-based content filter. And yeah, it's great. I mean, that's essentially the same tool that I use for a large client of mine. But they have the commercial version.
Yeah.
And just this morning I was working on that. In fact, I could call up the policy right now and take a look at stuff like that. So most of my work doesn't revolve around content filtering as much as the security side of things. Blocking things like adult themes and adware and stuff that just like, you just have no business doing that. But where I've been working and where it's actually turning to be harder is trying to do so on a granular level. So it's very easy just to say no swimwear, done.
Yeah.
But what about, what if you have a department that is in charge of purchasing swimwear for such and such?
Yeah.
They need to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
But the whole identity and access management component is where, it's been a real challenge trying to identify all of the people. Who are these people? Is there a group that already defines them? Is that group all inclusive? Is it comprehensive? Great. We will grant this group access to this sort of, website. But you got to do that really right from the get-go. Otherwise, you just end up with a mess.
Yeah.
So, for a small business, for a home, it's really easy. You could say Adam is allowed to download software updates, but no one else can download software. Full stop. You're not going to download viruses that way. Good job, right? Yeah. But in an organization with, say, 20, 30,000 users, it's not as easy to identify who does and does not need these permissions. So that's a chore.
Yeah. Well, and you said this, but it wasn't as clear, but the preventing users from getting to known sites that have malware.
Yeah, exactly.
Block all those.
That's a security setting, right? So that's one thing I do like about the umbrella product. I'm not sure about the home version. But the corporate version does not just categories of like content categories, but also security categories. So it will say like, this is a phishing site. Okay. Under no circumstances should we be allowing people accessing a phishing site. Okay. I can see. Well, one example, someone on my team on a controlled sandbox environment trying to do analysis of this phishing site. Then I could see wanting to pull that down. But we have third-party tools to do that. There are things out there anyone can use, like any.run or URL scan or whatnot to, have them pull down a copy in their sandbox environment. That's what you want to do for that. But you generally don't want to just be like, oh, I'm a security guy, so it's okay if I go to a bad website. Yeah. No. That's like saying I'm a doctor, therefore I can't get COVID unless I'm, even if I'm not vaccinated. Great. Yeah.
I had an interesting case where I had a behavioral health company, and they had to often look up deviant behavior and how, to medical things is like, oh, well, I don't see any way to I've got to open that up for you. I don't know how any other way to isolate that. I mean, because otherwise we had to whitelist every single URL that they needed to go to for research.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The doctor gets some unlimited.
There you go. I mean, that's the thing is like, you might be surprised, but in healthcare, there are a lot of websites that are classified as nudity, which are appropriate for business. And sometimes they show up as like lingerie. Sometimes it's swimwear, right? So you gotta know these things. So but generally, tasteless terrorism, weapons, web spam, illegal activities, illegal downloads, hacking sites, probably not needed. Probably not needed. Yeah. So drugs might be needed, right? Illegal drugs, maybe not, but we could have OR people looking for interactions and things like that. So could be needed, in a healthcare institution. If you're, your typical little .com or a real estate office, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
They told me they took a highball. What the heck is that?
What's that?
ER's got to look that up. I think a highball.
All right.
Anyway, I don't know. Apparently, I'm not good at my drug.
Speedball, highball, oddball, eight ball. I don't.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think highball's a drink, but I don't know what that is either.
Type of glass. I know that much.
Yeah.
So. All right. I think we're about ready to put a bow on this one.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, listener, if you would like to get a hold of us, you can give us your feedback, which we really do love to get. That can be delivered to us at blurringthelinespodcast.com. If you want to find Adam, he is at sublimecomp.com and also sublimecomp on Twitter. If you want to find me, I'm at Nikolaidis on Twitter or nikolaidis.com. And from there, you've got links to my yoga practice, my security practice, other podcasts that I'm on, et cetera, and other mindless rants. So on that note, unless there's anything else, Adam, I think it's time to push the big red button.